It's another edition of Time About the Movies. We're looking at the movies released on the weekend of October 19th, 1990. We got 4 movies to look at today, so let's go ahead and jump right on into it. We're going to start off with the first movie, the neo-noir western Quigley Down Under, from the director of Lonesome Dove, the miniseries, starring Tom Selleck, Laura San Giacomo, and Alan Rickman. For the most part, this movie is not all that bad. It's a decent western, but it doesn't really do anything different to make it stand out on its own. Plus, I think the 90s had much better westerns. Case in point, Clint Eastwood's Unforgiven, which makes these type of movie like this very hard to topple. But it's not a bad movie. I mean, the performances I think stand out most in this, especially Laura San Giacomo, who was just coming off a Sex Lies videotape, and this definitely proved that she had a presence on screen that would carry her much into the 90s. And to give Tom Selleck credit, after Magnum P.I., these were probably the best movies that he did after Magnum P.I. ended, because, I mean, really, An Innocent Man, Folks, those movies didn't really have any longevity to him after he finished Magnum P.I. Probably the biggest question mark here is Alan Rickman, who I think his performance in this was trying a little too hard to be like Hans Gruber in Die Hard, instead of just being another character overall. Again, not terrible in here, but it was too much like his other character from Die Hard, honestly. Like I said, for the most part, it's a decent movie. It's not one I'd rather watch over and over again, but I'm glad I saw it. I'm glad to see that there was some merit to it, at least. But, yeah, that's my quick thoughts on Quigley Down Under. Now let's go ahead and move on to the next movie, and that is the remake of Night of the Living Dead, directed by Tom Savini. So if you've been watching this channel for a long time and you've been reading the website, you know that I live in western Pennsylvania. I live about 15 minutes away from the Monroeville Mall, which is where Dawn of the Dead was filmed. And around here, of course, the original Night of the Living Dead was filmed here, as was Day of the Dead. Of course, George A. Romero was from here. There's a statue inside the mall that I always say hello to every time I do one of my videos for Movie Stop. So, when a movie like this comes around, people around here who really like these movies, we pay very close attention to it because, of course, when you're remaking Night of the Living Dead, one of the classic horror movies, zombie movies of all time, we're really going to keep a close eye on it because we want to see if this movie is of merit and actually doing something with it. And, it's alright. That's the best thing I could say about this movie, is that it's okay. It doesn't really do anything to make it stand out compared to the other film, except the other film was in black and white, and this is in color. I mean, it's not a bad movie. It's a competently made film. Some of the performances I liked in this. I mean, anything with Tony Todd in it's going to be pretty enjoyable to watch. Of course, you got Candyman and the main guy from Final Destination. I mean, what can you go wrong there? But yeah, for the most part, this movie is a very unnecessary remake because it's really not doing anything all that different compared to the first movie, except the fact that it's in color now instead of black and white. Most of the performances are pretty much about the same, or at least subpar compared to the previous movie. But, yeah, for the most part here, this remake is kind of unnecessary when you really think about it. I mean, in a way, it's almost it's not really shot for shot, but it comes pretty close. It's almost bordering on Psycho 98 levels of shot-by-shot remakes, but it doesn't really get that far. But like I said, there's really nothing here about this movie that makes it necessary, except the fact that Tom Savini directed it and George A. Romero produced it as well as wrote the script for it. But yeah, other than that, though, there's nothing really special about this movie, at least to me, that it feels necessary. I mean, the original movie still holds up to this very day. If you go back and watch that movie now, it still holds up to this very day. And I've seen other versions of this done a little bit better. They did an animated movie a year ago, which I thought was alright. I'd honestly say it's probably on this level too. Kind of unnecessary, but at least it's fun to watch. Like, it's fun to see what new changes they make in here. Even though this one is, the changes here are slim to none. But like I said, it's not a bad movie, but it just feels unnecessary. It feels like a movie that really didn't need to be made, at least in my opinion. if you really want to see it and give it a fair chance, I'd say you definitely check it out. You might have some fun with it, but don't go in expecting the original Night of the Living Dead. If you're looking for something that's going to be a bigger upgrade compared to the original film, then just stick with the original film if you can. So, yeah, that's my thoughts on the 1990 Night of the Living Dead. So, let's go ahead and move on to the next movie, and that is Susan Sarandon and James Spader in White Palace. You know, honestly, I don't really know how to feel about this movie. I feel like it's trying to tell something very important. It's trying to be like something groundbreaking or unique, but I just don't see it. I mean, basically, the plot is that a 27-year-old James Spader is hooking up with a 43-year-old Susan Sarandon, which I guess if the idea was that this is supposed to be like a May-December romance type of thing, I don't know. I mean, to me, I don't know. To me, when I think May-December romances, I think of decades between the two couples, like somebody's 30 and somebody's 70, that type of thing. But I don't know. Maybe that's just my thinking here. But as far as this movie goes, it's another one of those movies that's just okay. I mean, I think what does help it carry it over are the performances by Susan Sarandon and James Spader. I think both of them work very well here. You can buy their chemistry a little bit, but honestly, at least to me, I don't see the real reason for a movie like this to even exist. I mean, it doesn't really say anything groundbreaking or interesting to keep the audience guessing about how to feel about this. There's nothing really. There's no real suspense to it. There's no real intrigue about it. I mean, it's just these two people that are within 15 years apart in age just getting together, and it's just like, okay, what else you got here? And it doesn't really feel like there is a lot there. And I think that's the biggest problem with this movie here, is that there's nothing really there to make this movie really stand out on its own. It's just kind of like, okay, here's the setup, just let it happen. It's just like, no, I don't think that you can do that with a movie like this. I mean, like I said, the performances I think carry it out stand out the most. That's the one thing I would say about this movie, is that the two performances by Sarandon and Spader work very well compared to the actual script here. But for the most part, though, it's a movie that I would say that you don't need to rush out to see it. Only if you want to see some good Susan Sarandon and James Spader performances. But for the most part, yeah, it's a pretty forgettable film, to say the least. So, I mean, for the most part, this entire week has been mostly forgettable movies. But luckily, our last movie has some notoriety to it, and that is Jeremy Irons and Glenn Close in Reversal of Fortune. Obviously, the best movie that came out this weekend. This is the story of Klaus von Bülow, who was accused of killing his wife, but his family was the one that accused him of killing his wife, and he gets this attorney, Alan Dershowitz, played by Ron Silver in this movie, to help his case out, and it works on both levels. It works as a great courtroom thriller, but it also works as well as a satirical look at the rich, and it helps deeply with the great performances by Jeremy Irons, who won an Academy Award for this, for Best Actor, and Glenn Close, who is very good in this, as well as Ron Silver, and just some great performances all around, and quotes that still hold up to this very day, like Jeremy Irons' line after Ron Silver says, "You're a strange person," and he goes, "You have no idea," holds such an impact that it was actually used later on in The Lion King 4 years later, where Jeremy Irons, of course, played Scar. But, yeah, like I said, Barbet Schroeder directed this movie. Nicholas Kazan wrote it. Like I said, it's a great mix of two things: a great courtroom drama, a great satire on the rich and all, and it's just an enjoyable movie. It's a well-made, competently made film. It's a film that has a lot of good performances, has moments that still hold up to this very day, and it's a movie that, compared to the other three movies, I think holds a lot more in time since its release than the other three movies that we've looked at today have. So yeah, I would say if you haven't seen it already, definitely check out Reversal of Fortune, but chances are you probably have. But even if you didn't, definitely check out Reversal of Fortune if you can. So with that said, that's going to wrap up another edition of Time About the Movies. Next time around, when we start the new week off, we're going to end the month of October with Stephen King's Graveyard Shift, Kirstie Alley and the Comedy Sibley Rivalry, Tune In Tomorrow, and The Nasty Girl. This next week overall is going to have some really good movies that we're going to look at, including Misery, Home Alone, The Rescuers Down Under, Child's Play 2, Jacob's Ladder. There's a lot of good movies that worth talking about that we're gonna delve into in this next week of reviews that I have coming up. But of course, tomorrow's a new movie stop. I'm gonna go check out the new movie Lightyear, so I'll have a review of that for you tomorrow. So be on the lookout for that. And then we'll meet back here on Sunday for another time about the movies. So thank you guys for watching. And as always, if you want to see more videos like this, check out the playlist on the next page. Check out the previous episode. And I'll see you guys tomorrow for another new video. I'll see you guys on Sunday for the new time about the movies. Thank you for watching. I'll see you guys next time. And until then, as always, take care.